Hello and welcome to this special episode of the Marketing Week podcast, brought to you in partnership with Google. My name is Russell Parsons, Editor-in-Chief of Marketing Week, and I am your host. And we have a very special guest today, Sophie Neary, who's the Managing Director at Google for FMCG and retail, and somebody who's had years of experience working at some of the biggest brands around in tech and retail. Senior stints at the likes of Asda, Tesco, Meta and Boots, where she led digital transformation during the pandemic. And now at Google, where she works with some of the biggest marketing organizations in retail and FMCG, helping them unlock growth by using AI, search and data. And it's the sweet spot between those three things that we're looking to explore today. Sophie, welcome to the Marketing Week podcast.
Thanks, Russell. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, you've got a fantastic vantage point at Google, working with some of the biggest retail brands around. So what are the biggest challenges that retailers are facing right now?
Well, anyone who knows me well knows that I love a good metaphor or a good quote. And you're right, 2 billion people turn to Google search every single day. 1 billion people shop with Google every single day. So when the winds shift in retail, we catch the zephyr before it becomes a storm. And the amazing privilege of the role that I've got is not only do I get to see what's going on with retail in the UK, but I get to see what's going on with retail across Europe and across the US as well. So we get to see what good looks like from all around the world. But if I was to talk about what do I see in UK retail right now, back to my metaphor, it would be, it's not always the tiger in the jungle that kills you. Sometimes it's the mosquitoes. What on earth do I mean by that? Well, you can't talk about retail in the UK without talking about the biggest tiger in the jungle, which is, of course, Amazon. They take 30p in every pound spent online, and they're never giving that up. So now everybody else is all competing over the 70p that's left. And if I think about when Amazon first came on the scene in the late 90s, when I was just starting working in retail, everyone dissed them because, they're just selling books and it's not a great customer proposition. And I think we took our eye off the ball, right? I mean, you can't take it away from Amazon. They are formidable retailers. In the US, their market share is about the same. But we let that happen because we deprioritized digital overall. I think a lot of retailers in the early 2000s probably thought digital was a passing fad and would at some point, disappear. But that's not what happened. And so the competition has never been stronger. It is a jungle out there. UK retail in particular is incredibly sophisticated and advanced. So we have our tiger in Amazon, and then we also have our mosquitoes. Well, who are these mosquitoes? Most of them are on Shopify. And what's interesting about Shopify, in the UK, there are over 200,000 Shopify merchants. If each of them had just 1,000 customers who made one purchase in a year, that's 200 million shops that are being taken by all of those mosquitoes that aren't then being taken, or those customers are moving away from some of the more traditional UK retailers. That's a huge, huge amount. Shopify retailers outside of the US and in EMEA in particular are growing at plus 34% year on year, which is a number I think most retailers would give their right eyes for right now. I think UK online retail last year grew at 1.7%. So it's just formidable, the difference. And then because it's a metaphor, we have a metaphorical jungle. We also have some dragons in our jungle as well. Shein, Temu and TikTok shops. And they are the equivalent of data meets dupes at the scale of the most extraordinary algorithms. Shein, only 17 years old, started as a wedding dress retailer, now the second largest pure play apparel retailer in the world in just 17 short years. So they were once a mosquito. Who else was once a mosquito? Temu were. And I think what's interesting, what both of them have done, and 1 in 3 people have got the Temu app, again, formidable penetration in a very short space of time, is they've turned what we thought was conventional ways of marketing and customer journeys and customer experiences and turned them on their heads. So for any of you who've clicked on an ad for Temu or Shein and had a spinning wheel, and actually that product that you saw, you can't buy it on the website, you have to download the app to buy that. it's everything that we have thought about friction-free commerce, and they've put loads of friction in the customer journey. They've put loads of gadgets and gizmos and spinning things, and it's working. And one of the reasons it's working for them is they really know their long-term customer lifetime value. So they are able to invest in customer acquisition because they've integrated all the data points, and they know what amount of money they need to spend in order to acquire a customer and how that's going to pay off over the lifetime of that customer journey, rather than looking at really, really short-term profitability windows. So fair play to them. But again, we need to rip up the traditional rule books. We need to rip up what we thought was the right way to go about and do things. And one of the biggest things that we can do to take the fight to them and compete with them when they're scorching fire through so many of our categories is to really lean into AI and to help the AI find the customers that we didn't even know existed.
Tigers, mosquitoes, jungles, we're up and running in this conversation.
I know.
Talk to me. I mean, there's nothing that Marketing Week readers, marketers that I speak to appreciate more than a case study. How which brands are adapting and which brands are succeeding in what is, as you've described, a fast-moving and changing environment for retailers in particular. So if you were to identify one best practice case study who's embracing this adaptability, who would that be?
Great question. I honestly think I would choose Next, which is good news for us all, right? I mean, an incredible, run by one of the most formidable retailers that I think the UK has ever known in terms of Lord Wolfson. And they have a bad week and they're still +2. And again, you just can't take away from the fact that week in, week out, their performance is really, really up there, and something that is the envy, I know, of a lot of other retailers. And I think what's interesting for us is how Next work with us in search. And I can share this because they put it in their annual report that for them, marketing budget for performance is not a boardroom conversation. They have a model. They look for every pound that they invest, they look for £2.50 back. And as long as they keep getting that return on investment, then they keep spending. And so how they work with us in search is absolutely best in class in that they invest their money. As long as the Google AI is giving them the returns that they want, they will keep on spending, which means that they're able to follow the ebb and flow of customer demand, because 15% of searches are new every day. That's searches that we didn't know this morning, let alone yesterday. So they are able, by embracing and adapting all of Google's AI capabilities, to find the searches that didn't exist this morning, to find the micro trends, whether it's grandpa or chic or some new gadget or gizmo for the home. And they do that, and they just steadily and consistently, week after week, churn out outstanding commercial results.
They're absolutely a juggernaut in retail.
Yeah.
And Next. And
online and offline too,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
They're not just it's easy sometimes to use an online pure player. And, you know, Gymshark, I would also say, are an incredible example of that. Now moving into stores and moving into the physical world. But for me, Next are definitely the one for everyone to aspire to.
And their unerring devotion to operational efficiency and demand for performance and ROI is well known. And as you quite rightly say, it's something that I've tracked in their financial statements as well. Now, we've talked already about change. I'm a bit of a skeptic. I'm a journalist, so I need to be skeptical. I think a lot of talk of change is overplayed, but actually I think if there's a sector over the last 10 to 15 years that has definitely been at the coalface of all change, it is retail. New players, new behaviors. You mentioned Amazon and Temu earlier on. If you could dig a little bit deeper into what it is that they do and how marketers can perhaps navigate when dealing with the changes that they have driven.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think for me, what's really interesting, if I focus on the dragons for a second, is how they've brought gamification into shopping. So I've worked in online and online retail since the mid-90s, and most of my career has been spent developing customer journeys and websites that that get out of the way of the customer, right? It's all about reducing friction, and you don't want pop-ups and you don't want too many fields to fill in. And that's why, the Google auto address field completes in Chrome are so valuable, because they reduce friction out of that customer journey and reduce the friction in the path to purchase. And what's just extraordinary about Temu and Shein is that they've got more pop-ups than I've ever seen on our website before. They've got wheels that you can spin. They've got products that are only available on the app. So they've sort of gamified shopping in a way that we haven't seen before, and that we would have said was worst practice, not best practice. So again, credit to them. They've sort of tipped the whole conventional model that we've always followed on its head and gone, well, we're going to make this a bit crazy, and we're going to make it sort of sticky, but also maybe a little bit annoying. But because people are so desperate to get that thing for £2.50, that they'll go through some of the pain of downloading the app and then getting on the app and finding the product that's only available on the app. So I think there's some really, really interesting strategies around app and customer acquisition via the app that we can learn from them. That again, we have to relearn some of the stuff that we thought was true. And what they are past masters at is understanding long-term customer value. So one of the things that they're very good at doing, and again, I think it's an opportunity for us to learn from, is they're really good at understanding and knowing what their long-term customer value is. So they know exactly how much they want to spend on acquiring a customer, rather than a customer having to be profitable in just one transaction. I think that's a really good learning. The other way that we can compete, of course, is what do we have, or what do lots of retailers in the UK have that Amazon, Temu and Shein don't have, is shops, right? So what is that last mile strategy going to be? What is your omnichannel strategy going to be? And I think when I look at retail and retailers in the UK, what is the one opportunity? We're very sophisticated in online retail in the UK. 27% penetration. It's only 19 or 20% in the US. I think it's about 21% in Germany. We are phenomenally complex. We have some of the most sophisticated and advanced users of Google search and advertising technologies globally. And often when I have retailers in the UK say, we need this or we need that, and I go back to product in the US and they go, well, no one else is asking for that. And I always say, it's just that they don't know that they need it yet. It's not that they're not going to ask for it. And it's because our retailers are so sophisticated and advanced, because we've been so good at doing e-commerce for so long. But what we've been on the back foot on, which in the US we're really on the front foot on, is the whole omnichannel. So in the US, I think partly because of the size of the US with its geography, when e-com came along, they couldn't do next day delivery because they didn't have distribution centers across all of the different states. So they had no way to offer some of the things that we were able to do, because we were geographically advantaged because we're quite a small country. So from day one, we've been pretty much able to do next day delivery, right? That's sort of been table stakes for a long time. Whereas that took the US a long time to get to, because they're just so big. So the US had to go all in on Omni, because what did they have? They actually had a lot of stores across the country. So they went all in on Omni, whilst we were going all in on some of the lower hanging fruit for us in the e-com and digital only world. But that means that now, for me, one of the last frontiers for us, again, to be really able to compete with is the whole omni-channel capability. We know that people research online. I think we now say 60 or so touch points, many of which are digital, before someone will still go into a shop to purchase. And yet we have so many amazing high street retailers in the UK, whether it's Sports Direct or JD Sports, whether it's Next, whether it's M&S, whether it's Tesco, whether it's Sainsbury's, who've got enormous physical store footprints. So again, I would just say there's a big opportunity for us to do a lot more in driving people online to offline. And Google Maps, one of our products that 2 billion people use every single day, it's not just a product that people use or a service that people use to navigate from A to B. Shopping is the second most reason that people use Google Maps. So it's not just something that's near me, it's where's this product near me now.
So it's a dizzying number of touch points that any retail brands in particular need to lean into. Again, considering some of your clients, who's doing it well? Who is joining the dots? Who is offering that seamless omni-channel experience?
Well, I mean, maybe this is a reflection of the fact that
you can say all of them.
That I'm not doing my job well enough yet, but I don't think there is one that's doing it well enough yet. And that's my provocation. So when I go in and speak to CEOs and everybody says to us, be a good critical friend, tell us where we can improve. That's always my first answer. Omni is there. We have all the capabilities. They're crushing it in the US. And in part, it's also back to this change point. It's an organizational opportunity because still too often, .com P&L is run separately from the store's P&L. And quite often they only ladder up and meet at the CEO. And we've got to understand, we all know that an omnichannel customer is 3 times more valuable than an online-only customer or a store-only customer, but we still don't treat them enough in that way, which means our marketing investments can sometimes be siloed, or the person who's responsible for the .com business, a KPI just on the .com sales versus the store sales. And so you're inadvertently driving with the handbrake on.
I've seen this countless times over the years. Companies, particularly companies that have been around for a long time, orientate around themselves,
the
and
channels,
how they do things, as opposed to the customer. Ostensibly marketing is supposed to be the voice of the customer, but in terms of structure and culture, it's often lacking. Now, I've read a lot about the undecided customer. Talk to me about what that is and how marketers can perhaps lean in and navigate the undecideds.
Yes. So I've been at Google for 1.5 years now, and I think what's really interesting is this significant shift that we have seen in how consumers are turning to search. I mean, search has been around for 26 years. 1 billion people shop on Google search every single day. We had 5 trillion searches on Google last year, which is every search is a second, means the entire world spent 192,000 years searching last year, which is just like mind-blowing numbers. But so I'm interested in what's different, what has changed. And what I think is fascinating is since the cost of living crisis and since COVID, we have seen a double-digit increase in comparison queries. So search is all about being helpful. And it's a tool that people can use to say, I would need a suitcase that's going to fit in the Ryanair overhead lockers. I want a birthday present for dad who doesn't like anything and I don't want to spend more than £20. I want baby milk for a baby who's got eczema and they're under 6 months old. So they're turning to search to help them find things. And I call it the journey of the how to now. So first of all, someone might be saying, how do I get soft skin? And if you're a brand, maybe you're Dove, then you want your content to show up that is all about the Dove product range and how that can help someone get soft skin. And then they go from how to, well, what's the best product for me to get soft skin? So maybe that's a skin washer, maybe it's a moisturizer, maybe it's an exfoliator. And then if you're Dove, you want the product range in terms of product reviews, and maybe you'll see something on YouTube where you've got someone unboxing some Dove and talking about how they use Dove in their routines. And then it's the moment that everyone knows about search is, I want it now. So find me Dove sensitive skin body wash, either near me now if they want to buy it in a store, or obviously online. So it's this journey of how to now that's really changing. And the research that we have done has shown that 70% now, which is a huge number, right? 70% of people are turning to search without necessarily having a brand in mind, which is both an opportunity and a challenge. But it's an opportunity because by leaning into our AI capabilities and our search AI power capabilities, you can find that customer who didn't even know that they were looking for you. So that's an extraordinary opportunity, particularly during moments where other brands like Amazon might be creating a huge swathe of customer intent during these mega sales moments, but consumers are still turning up undecided. So that's a great opportunity for you to make sure that you've got the right product at the right price with the right promo, all of the classic 4 Ps of marketing, to show up to capture those undecided consumers. So I think that's a really great opportunity for brands to find new customers that they didn't even think about before. And again, that's where AI can help you find the needle in a haystack when you thought you were looking for a paperclip.
Now, you just alluded to events, moments like Cyber Weekend and Black Friday. How can marketers show up in these occasions and beyond?
That's one of my favorite questions. So last year, which was my first Cyber Week and Golden Quarter at Google, we talked a lot about fake Friday. So one of the anomalies, of course, in the UK is we never know when Black Friday is because it's based on a US holiday that we don't even celebrate in terms of Thanksgiving. And last year, what was very interesting was for the first time since 2019, so that's pre-COVID, right? Cyber Monday fell in December because Thanksgiving falls on the last Friday in November. But for about 4 or 5 years, that had always been about the third weekend in November and not the last weekend in November. So this year and last year, we've got Cyber Monday falling in December. So that is different. And so there's a few things that are going to make it really important for retailers to know in terms of, and brands to know in terms of how they're going to win. So last week we talked about Fake Friday, when consumers are confused and they're like in the market searching because they think it's Black Friday anyway. And Amazon showed up and literally showed everyone how to do Cyber Week. They launched the Thursday before Fake Friday. They called it Cyber Week, but their trading period lasted 11 days. So not only do they redefine consumer expectations, they're now bending the definition of time. So they were there for the whole of the 11-day period. And we saw a huge amount of demand on Fake Friday, as well as the traditional amount of massive demand over the Cyber Weekend. And last year, I went to every retailer that I work with and I said, you've got to be all in on Fake Friday because there's going to be a huge amount of demand there. And, you know, traditionally, clicks are cheaper on Fake Friday before Black Friday itself because there isn't the same amount of competition. So you have the opportunity to be more profitable, but to gain about 75% of the volume of sales. And everyone sort of went, yeah, Sophie, we get it. But I kind of felt like they were in this fixed mindset and they were going to do what they did anyway. Some retailers who did go into Fake Friday, some retailers like Next, who just set their target and let the machine go and find the consumers, they kind of sailed through the golden quarter. And when I looked at then, when we went back after all of the Cyber Week was finished, and we went back and looked at the data, because in some ways it was opinion before Cyber Week, and now we have the data, we were accurate within 1% of our predictions over that period of what people were going to turn up with on the search volumes, what the growth was going to be. I mean, 1% when you consider the size of that moment and the opportunity is pretty formidable, I think, and pretty impressive. So this year, we're calling it, and it's different. So last year was all about Fake Friday. This year is all about, you're hearing it here first, the triple peak week. Well, what do we mean?
I'm struggling to keep up with all of. We need a new calendar.
We do need a new calendar.
In addition to Saints Days, we need these included as well.
Spoiler alert: I'll probably be putting a picture of one on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So you'll be able to go and find one, and maybe we'll do something with the podcast as well. So what do we mean by the triple peak week? Well, we are calling, you hear it here first, the Sunday after Black Friday to be bigger than Black Friday itself. So we are saying that the Sunday after Black Friday will have about 107% of the amount of demand and searches and interest in the market that we see on Black Friday. And we're also saying that the Sunday before Black Friday, hence the triple peak week, the Sunday before Black Friday, the Sunday after will also be really, really huge. And again, have an opportunity where there's possibly less competition in the market. So the clicks will be cheaper. So you can get a huge volume of sales, slightly cheaper than you would do on the Cyber Weekend itself.
I really feel like I should be taking
It's
notes. So I'm
really
prepared
important.
As a consumer, never mind as a marketing journalist.
Triple peak week.
As Discovery becomes more visual, as social plays a greater role, and indeed AI has greater impact when people are looking to discover, how should brands show up to make sure that they are still relevant?
I think for me, one of the most exciting things for retailers is the change in image search that Google Search has introduced over the last 12 months or so. And what's interesting actually is that Google Lens, which is what we call our search what you see with your camera in the Google app on your phone, has actually been around for a long, long time. But in the last sort of 18 months or so, it has just exponentially grown beyond probably even what Google would imagine it would do. So when I first joined Google, there were 12 billion searches with Google Lens every single month. That's billion with a B. That's an awful lot to start with, right? 12 billion. That's the scale of Google. And now there are over 28 billion searches every single month. So it's more than doubled in just 12 months, and it just keeps on growing. And obviously for retail, what's incredible is in the real world, search is not words constrained in a box. right? That's just all the technology enabled us to do. And Russell, you and I grew up learning to search in terms of something that we type. And now search is much more in reality as to how we would search in real life, because what do you search with? You search by asking questions, you search with your eyes. And we have a whole world of capability, which we call multimodal. So let's say you liked my jacket. You could hold your camera up to my jacket and say, oh, I'd like to find Sophie's jacket, but in blue, not in pink. So we not only have the ability for Google search to do image search and recognition, and it's just so unbelievably accurate, it blows my mind, but also to say, well, I want it in a different color, or I want a different colorway, or even, okay, I want to buy it and I want it near me now, to sort of link that whole purchase journey. And fun fact, 1 in 4 searches with Google Lens have got what we call commercial intent. So that's someone looking to say, I want to find this and I want to buy it. So that's just absolutely mind-blowing. We also have another capability, which is called circle to search. And this was new last year. And the reason that we developed that is because we found that people were screenshotting something they'd seen on TikTok or on a magazine website, and then they were uploading that to do an image search in Google to say, help me find this. And that was particularly what younger demographics were doing. So more the Gen Z, unsurprisingly, more of the Gen Z generation. So we just thought, well, why don't we just help them? So now with Circle to Search, you could be on TikTok, you could be on Vogue.com, you could be on any website, and you just slide up from the bottom of your screen. You literally circle it with your finger. And again, Google will go off and find it for you. I use it all the time. The other week, I'd managed to put my hob on. I'd got the child lock on. It's a lovely hob. It's very, very modern. It's got no buttons. It's touch screen only. I spent about 4 minutes driving myself crazy trying to turn the child lock off so I could boil my egg again for breakfast. Did a Google Lens search with it. 5 seconds later, had all the answers that I knew, which 2 buttons I needed to press for 5 minutes. Bingo bongo, I could boil my eggs for breakfast again. So it's got multiple uses. But again, we see that Gen Z are power users of search. So signed in users aged 18 to 24 search more than any other demographic, which I don't think anyone necessarily would have thought was true. But that's because now search is becoming multimodal in a way that they would want to use it. And another fun fact is when younger users have used Circle to Search, they are now starting their search journeys 10% of the time with that capability. That's how useful, but also how accurate and trustworthy it is as well. So I'm so excited.
That's evident. I mean, I watch my daughter, who's only 14, so I think she's technically Gen Alpha.
Yeah, I think so.
And yeah, how quickly her behaviour is evolving in terms of discovery is fascinating to watch, both from a professional and personal perspective. And I wish I'd have known about the lock on the oven when I was
yeah, I know. It's
the
very
father of a young child. As AI plays more of a role in the discovery experience, what's the role and how is that evolving of a brand's own website?
One of the things that I think everyone would have seen in Google search in the last year is the introduction of what we call our AI overviews. So that's where you see a summary and the sources of the website of where we've sourced those answers from that sit in the overview. And one of the questions I get asked a lot is, does that mean that our website isn't going to be as relevant anymore? Or are we going to actually have less traffic to our website because of that? And the answer is definitely not. So search's prime job has always been to be helpful to people and to direct people to the websites that they will find the most useful answers for what they're looking for. Right? So human curiosity is limitless. That's the one thing that at Google we've learned in the last 26 years, which is why 15% of searches are new every day. So what we're actually seeing with AI overviews is that people are clicking out more and spending more time on those websites when they do. And that's because with the AI overviews, we've been able to present multiple links out, remember, because it has different answers and different paragraphs, so that it provides a more comprehensive and helpful answer to whatever it is the person is looking for. So the summary answer is that brands' websites are going to be more important than ever. What we do think that people will need to start thinking about is the content that sits on those websites and some of the again, leaning into using AI to help you create different forms of content and descriptions and some of the stories, because we know that customers, human curiosity is limitless. Customers are really, really hungry for that sort of information. And so that's where we're going to be spending a lot of time with the brands that we work with, making sure that their websites are also evolving for this AI first era. It's very exciting.
Well, as the editor of a website, I'm busy taking mental notes as to how we can mitigate the change and the increasing role of AI. Now, while we're busy challenging received wisdom, often I hear that from people that they think AI is just a tool for productivity, for cost efficiency, not for creativity. What would you say to those people?
The way that I like to look at it is sort of two different buckets. There's AI for productivity. I mean, that is absolute table stakes. You're going to be left for dust unless you're really leaning into using AI to help you be more efficient, help you be more effective. And I say that in terms of, how you use Google search and running your search campaigns. If you're not already optimized and lent into all of the AI capabilities, we have a product which is called AI Max. Very innovative. Then again, for me, that's sort of table stakes. That's a sort of must do and a non-negotiable. I think the competitive differentiators will be those organizations that really use AI to power growth. So not how are you going to use it to catch up and keep up, but how are you going to use it to leapfrog and to get ahead? And I think that's where the really exciting opportunity is. And that's where the magic is going to happen, because with AI, the sky isn't the limit, but your imagination is the limit. Where does imagination start? Imagination starts with human creativity. And I think we are going to see the most incredible explosion of this multiplier effect of, the wonderful power of the human imagination combined with the multiplier effect of the creativity that AI can have to take kernels of ideas and explode them from 67 assets, or probably now from, one image to 2,700 different capabilities and formats and assets. And I think that's phenomenally exciting. And I would just encourage us all to think about the advent of AI in terms of the opportunities for creativity, a little bit like we did at the dawn of the internet. So I first started working in all things online in 1995, where we said things like information superhighway and floppy disk with a straight face. And we're at that point now with AI, where the thing that is incredible about this technology is this is the worst it's ever going to be. And I don't know about you, Russell, but it pretty much blows my mind every single day. So there are going to be opportunities for creativity with AI that we don't even know about yet. And with AI, the power of that magic combination of our imaginations and then the ability for that to explode that into ways that we don't even know are possible yet, I think is unbelievably exciting. And there will be industries and roles and capabilities that we haven't even imagined yet, that in 5 years' time we'll look back and go, how did we not see that? And I think that's what's really exciting.
It's clear from your enthusiasm that you do see almost infinite opportunity, and we're only going to be limited in exploiting that opportunity by our own imaginations, to paraphrase in a really poor way what you were saying there. So there's clearly lots of opportunities, but no shortage of challenges. What are the watch outs when it comes to AI?
You're not competing with AI, you're competing with organizations using AI better than you are. So the most important thing that you can do is work out what your strategy is. So if you're a retailer, is it market share growth? Is it international expansion? Is it category growth? If you're in a category that's declining, how are you going to grow your market share in that category? What's your product strategy? And then figure out how AI is going to help you win in those areas. And I think that for me is the most important thing that you can do to harness the opportunity and the capability that AI can bring. Your strategy is always going to be your strategy. That is going to be your red thread and your differentiator, along with obviously your brand and what you stand for and the values that you bring and you stand for. And then it's about figuring out how you champion and harness the power of AI to deliver to that.
I've got a poll that was recently done that I'd like to quote at you here. YouGov ACAS poll that found over a quarter, 26% to be precise, of UK workers fear AI could cost them their job. And we've all heard that anxiety. Our recent Career and Sarah survey, Marketing Week's Career and Sarah survey, found that AI skills were the biggest concern, or lack of was the biggest concern that marketers had as well. So against this kind of fear, anxiety, not feeling like they're quite equipped for what's coming, what would you say to marketers in terms of being able to future-proof not only their own capability, but that of their teams?
Yeah. Well, back to one of my favourite quotes is, our comfort zones are lovely places, but nothing ever grows there. So how do we get comfortable with living in a world where we have to be uncomfortable, where change has never been so fast, but will never be this slow again? It really is all about us as leaders. How do we get people to lean in, to embrace the opportunity, change breeds opportunity, to embrace the opportunities that come with change, but also to make sure that they feel supported, that they're being invested in, that they're being given the right skills. So with Google Marketing Academy, I think we have 13 different courses that are free for anyone to take in terms of how you can skill and equip yourself with AI. So the advice I would give to anyone is, be really hungry for knowledge, be really hungry to learn, know that no one knows anything. If we look at how the world has changed over the last 26 years, I think most people will say that AI is the greatest technological shift and therefore opportunity that most of us will see in our lifetime. So it's okay to feel a bit scared about it. I mean, every day is a school day at Google. The Google that I joined a year and a half ago is so different from the Google that I work in today, and no doubt so different from the Google that will be in 6 months' time down the line. And so we have to get, as people, comfortable, and I think only the strong can be vulnerable. And as leaders, I would really encourage all of us to say, this is what I'm learning. This is what I'm doing to skill myself on AI. And these are the courses that I'm taking, because this is a journey that even the mighty Google is on. We have to get comfortable with learning the way on the way. But people are incredibly resilient. And I think the pandemic taught us that. Within, a week, we all had to completely turn how we worked on our heads. And guess what? We managed to get through that. And we managed when the internet came along, and everyone was worried that the internet was going to take loads of jobs. And ultimately, the internet democratized opportunity for millions of small businesses. Those 200,000 businesses that are on Shopify wouldn't probably exist today were it not for the internet. And I think that AI is going to open up economic opportunities for us as people, opportunities for jobs, and brand new industries that we don't even know about yet. And we have to be willing to learn and to grow and to get comfortable with being uncomfortable in order, I think, to really harness that opportunity.
That's a really positive, glass half full rallying call almost to finish our conversation on today, Sophie. So thank you very much for your insight and the experience that you shared with us. Actually, in terms of summary, something you said not that long ago in our conversation, the strategy is the strategy. And I've been thinking as we've been talking that if we accept that marketers' primary objective should be identifying, serving needs and doing so in a profitable manner, I don't think that changes. But there are clearly, and we've discussed many of them today, so many more ways that you can execute and deliver, and there is a lot of excitement and opportunity around that. So thank you for sharing some of that excitement and opportunity from your perspective. And until next time on the Marketing Week podcast, it's goodbye from me and Sophie.